the foundation of all good qualities. The next verse is, led by this pure thought, mindfulness, alertness, and great caution arise. The root of the teachings is keeping the pratimoksha vows. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. So it means if you want to get out of samsara, it's good to take vows, because these dachafs are really strong. And so you can take vows for 24 hours, or you can take them for your whole life. You can take them for 24 hours again and again and again and again, until you feel more or less confident that you keep them. And it's simple things. Yeah, it's like not stealing, like the 5 lay vows: not killing, not stealing, no sexual misconduct, meaning no taking somebody's partner, no going off with somebody when you have a partner, no forcing anybody. It's these kind of things with when suffering occurs when you have sexual contact. Then the 3, Sorry?
Speech, right speech, not good.
No lying. That, it's the 5 lay precepts, 5 vows that you vow not to, at least not do this voluntarily. We will still say it, but then you have to purify. But having a vow will keep you. Let's say there's a mosquito in the room, one, just one. I had one like this the whole weekend in Yechiam. And it bit me, I don't know how many times, but I survived and I didn't kill it. So, the vow of not killing prevents you from killing it, because it's, when we talk about object, it's a small object, but it's still a sentient being. So this is why we take these. Pratimoksha means self-liberation vows, so there can be lay vows, which is usually the 5. No killing, no stealing, no lying, no sexual misconduct, and no intoxicants. Now, this you have to ask the teacher that gives you these vows what exactly they mean. Sometimes they say not to get drunk. Sometimes they're very strict and say not even 1 drop. Because if you don't have the 1st glass, you also don't have the 2nd and the 3rd and the 4th. Then you're really protected. But it's handled in different ways, so we will have to ask. Then you have you can take even stricter lay vows, which is brahmacharya, which means no sexual contact. Basically, you're still a lay person, but you live like celibate. So if you are married, please discuss it with your wife or your partner before you come home and say, oh, I took the brahmacharya vow, therefore, sorry, now finished. It's like you are in a relationship, so don't be, that's not really Buddhist, The zealous Buddhist who is taking vows and then not discussing it with the family. Also then the next level of the pratimoksha vows, monks or nuns vows, which are quite a lot of those. Okay. Then, so now these first 2 levels of practice would be covered. Like first, you practice with the intention to have a good rebirth, so you really take care of your karmic actions. So then you're sure to have a good rebirth every time around. Then you become aware that even though I have a lot of pleasures, it doesn't give me what I want, meaning lasting satisfaction, meaning spaciousness, goodness, purity. These are all words that most of the people feel very inspired by it. Some people think they're naive, or love, compassion, these kinds of things. So some people say, well, this is just for the naive, so if you're not amongst them, you can be very happy. Because even those people who think it's just for the naive, they're very happy when you're kind to them. They're not that happy when you're unkind to them. And if they complain, then you can say, well, I just decided with you, I'm not going to be naive anymore. So therefore, now I'm going to be unkind. Then they will understand very quickly that actually kindness is a good thing. Also makes you feel better about yourself. This is, we start to feel that, unfortunately, because we think it is naive, and because, I don't know if I should start with this, because there's this fear of being the friar in this country, you have an anti-friar society, which Ido, like Ronnie's grandchild, has just written, have you read it? It's really good. An article about it in the Jerusalem Online, about how it poisons society. This fear of being the one who gives in, this fear of being the one who is being cheated, this fear of being the one who is like the other one has more advantage or whatever. It really, really poisons the society. But again, I understand where it comes from. It comes from, I mean, Jews in Europe, not just in the Second World War, but even before, they've been treated in an appalling ways. And then you have your country, you develop this attitude of, nobody will do that to me, and now you're doing it to each other. This is the thing. Because this is it. Once the mind is created, it doesn't see anymore who is there. It doesn't matter who is there, what it is, So, yeah, so and he wrote about, having this fear of being the friar, you forgot to be mensch. And what is more important, is being a friar and be mensch, or being the anti-friar and not be mensch? So you choose. This is something we can make a conscious choice, we can. Some people tell me, oh, you're such a friar. I say, well, I don't care. I really don't care. I don't belong to this society here. It's like, what you see as friar in Switzerland is seen as kind. So it's okay. It's fine. And you don't have to. It's good to check also your own kind of reaction to this when you're out in society. Like a good example is when I gave a tip to a waiter who was really grumpy. And people who were with me, and one of them said, you're such a friar. I said, yeah. I give him a tip, maybe then he's happier afterwards, Being grumpy with him, it doesn't make him happier. But maybe he is, I don't know, he's unhappy. So if I can make somebody happy with 10 shekel, come on now. I'm supposed to liberate those sentient beings from suffering. Here, with 10 shekel, I can make somebody happy. I'm not even ready to do this. How am I going to liberate all beings from samsara? So, but the person who said I was a friar, he's not a Buddhist, so he's off the hook. Then there's actually, now it starts with bodhicitta. Yeah? From here on, this prayer, so we can just read it. Just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, so of all mother migratory beings, please bless me to see this, train in supreme bodhicitta, and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. So that is the that would be the trigger. Like, just as I have fallen, we haven't really fallen into the sea of samsara, we've always been there. But everybody else is in the same boat, Nobody wants to be the friar, but if there's two people, if there's conflict, if you want a conflict resolution, one has to be the friar. We want kind of, justice, and everybody gives a little bit, but when they're not ready to give anything, you give everything, and that's it. Lama Zopa Rinpoche, in one of his teachings, he said, with two people conflict, if one is flexible, it's enough. Yeah, so he should be flexible. Isn't it? Or if I am flexible, but at least something should come back. So then it becomes like a business, It becomes like, I'm flexible if you are flexible. If you stop being flexible, I'm also stop being flexible. And very often, this sneaks in when we do have a good motivation, and we are nice, kind, flexible, and then nothing comes back from this side. A person doesn't change his or her behavior. They even take more advantage of you because you think that they think that you're stupid. I don't think so. Unless this is really another cultivated thought that you have here, that people who are kind are stupid. I don't know. Maybe he just appreciates it and thinks, well, great, now I can ask for more. But not necessarily because he thinks you're stupid. But our ego thinks that he thinks I'm stupid, isn't it? This fear of being taken advantage of is like, not just in Israel, it's everywhere. If I give this, then they will take the whole hand. You can say no. So then we kind of miss out on the joy of giving something out of fear. Like the joy of giving is like, wow. Yeah, and of course, in order to give something, you need to have something. But you can start small with a few nice biscuits, for example. It's okay. It doesn't have to be big. Again, don't overdo it. Yeah, and don't see it as a duty. Try it out and see it. If I give totally without any attachment, without wanting anything back, you have zero chance for disappointment. Zero. It's just the act of giving. The moment you expect that the person kind of I bring people chocolate. If you think that the chocolate is horrible, tell me, it's okay, I bring something else. I prefer, actually, here in Israel, people are honest enough to do. In Switzerland, no. Like I brought some cookies last year, and I asked somebody, how was it? And she said, oh, it was horrible. In Switzerland, nobody would dare to say like this. But I'm glad, so I know, no, for her, not this anymore. So it's great that I can bring what she likes. So like this. So we started, everybody is we're all in the same boat, right? We all have this yearning, this urge for lasting happiness and well-being. This is why the world develops in such a way. Better apartments, better air conditions, better microphones, better telephones. Again, now they start to get smaller again. Have you noticed? Like, before it was like bigger, bigger, bigger. All of a sudden it starts to get smaller again. The newer ones, and not so terribly big. Always changing, but then we never find what we want. It's actually quite pitiful. We have so much technology. We have so much knowledge by now on the internet. It's incredible. I mean, all the knowledge is stored on the internet. Still, there's not one person who can truly, honestly say, I'm always happy. Not even one. Isn't that pitiful? How we still struggle and how we still have like a lot of mental problems and a lot of suffering that seems to be totally unnecessary. Yeah, sad. It's really sad. Slowly now, also societies are starting to look, before it was this, what's it called, PDG or something, where, you measure gross income something, but you measure it actually on what people spend. And GDP, or something like this, GDP, what's it called, Gross
domestic product.
Domestic product, okay, GDP, thank you. I'm not very good at this. But you understood what I meant. So if a society is happy, this GDP is going down because people will not spend so much money on shopping and psychiatrists and hospitals and being sick. But this is how you measure it, on how much people spend. Right? Yeah? And in Bhutan, they measure it on the happiness of people. And they do a lot in order, but also it doesn't work. Because, again, your government can be looking after you in such a nice way. Okay, they might be happier than we are. But now also, I heard they're starting to get into high debts because they want higher living standard. It's like samsara sucks. Everybody's making the same mistakes. As long as you're looking for happiness outside, you're set up for failure. It might work for a certain while, and you might even, every time you switch on your air conditioner and think, so wonderful, I have this air conditioner. Thank you very much for the people who designed it. What would it be like if I wouldn't have it? If you would go through this reasoning every time you switch on your air conditioner, there might be a certain level of happiness. But you forget. All of a sudden this air conditioner comes, it's been grown, it grows in the wall, Why does it make noise? Why can't it be silent? Why can't I, put it more others? And if you have, like in Yechiam, the one that makes a lot of noise, people, actually, they prefer to be hot than the noise. When we had all the air conditioners who made noise, it was good enough.
It's called Saksara, not Samsara anymore.
Yeah, Saksara is a good way, yeah. So when we see this, we see that I have all mother migratory beings. We come to this, why mother migratory beings, what that means. Please bless me to see this train in Supreme Bodhichitta and bear the responsibility for freeing migratory beings. So we take actually this big decision, and the Buddha taught two vehicles. One stops here, when it says, I want to get out of samsara, I take pratimoksha vows, I do everything not to be reborn again under the influence of karma and delusion. That's one vehicle. That's the Theravadian vehicle. And it's okay. Please do never criticize them. Yeah, most of the people practice that because that seems a goal that is approachable. Also at the time of the Buddha, most of the disciples he had practiced Theravadian. Then some others had this potential and saw, but we have Buddha potential. We can also become Buddhas. This is why I want to go all the way to liberate, to have the qualities that I need to liberate all sentient beings. So do you remember the difference between an arhat and a Buddha?
Yes.
Well, you know, a difference between a pratimoksha and pratyeka and a Shravaka Buddha and a Buddha Buddha. Do you remember? Because they're also called Buddhas. What's the difference?
The small one, the middle one, and the big one?
No, well, you know, the Shravakas are the hearers and the Pratyekas are the self-realizers.
Yeah.
And then the Bodhichitta Buddha is the fully awakened being.
That wants everyone else to be also
Right.
afraid of
Yeah,
samsara. He wants to free
Right.
everyone else.
yeah. Sarah?
I must say the hat is looking for its own. It doesn't think about the others as the.
Yeah, the Arhat has already. That was his motivation. But what's the difference when there are Arhats? Because the Arhat is not looking for liberation anymore, he has it. You know, a Bodhisattva can be on different levels.
Yeah, but it can be years on that level before moving into.
Yeah, this, again, we discuss it, I don't know about this, but what are the qualities of these minds? Or what's the difference?
He has still got to clear up
Exactly.
his mind,
Exactly.
the finest.
The garlic smell in the pot. The imprints from the karma, like the seeds, they have gone. Yeah, the seeds, and together with the delusions, with the dachafs, everything has gone. He has kind of freed himself from the hindrance or from the obstacles to liberation, meaning being reborn again and again and again and again under the control of karma and delusion. Even before, I'm sure he did that with Glenn. Yeah, even before it's his last rebirth, he doesn't fall back anymore. But he still has to get used to this emptiness view and to meditate on it, to deepen it, so that then until from a conceptual knowing, it goes into direct experience. And even with the direct experience, they still have to go on the path of.
After the path of seeing and the
Path of
seeing and path of meditation.
Yes, on the path of meditation. So they still need, like, you know, they're called stream enters, once returners, never returners, and then arhats. So that's the Hinayana kind of levels. Whereas if somebody then already now makes this decision, and we had this discussion on Tuesday when I came, but how can somebody who has realized emptiness not have this open heart and this compassion for everybody? I think it really has to do with motivation. You see, the same thing, if you only want to help yourself, or let's say I have a motivation to go to Tel Aviv, but not a motivation to go to Eilat, even though Eilat might be much nicer with the beach and all this. And again, I'm taking worldly examples. And then it's quite difficult to go to Tel Aviv. I have to walk, it's far. I get there, it's like, wow. And I stay there because that was my motivation. Why would I bother about this hard work? You know, it's hard work to be a bodhisattva. Yeah, going on these 10 levels, practicing the 6 perfections and all this. And people being so stubborn and lazy like us. Yeah, so I think it's motivation. I think it's predispositions also. And then, of course, they say the Buddhas kicked them out of their nirvana. That is, I don't know, maybe, probably they do, I don't know. But then they have to go on that path again. So we might as well, from the beginning, know we want to go to Eilat.
As you can say Sinai Beach better. Eilat's not very nice.
That's you. Again, you know, this whole thing. Gosh, I tell you, in Switzerland we
Go to a lunch once.
Yeah, I know, I've been there.
You liked it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I like everywhere. It's like, it's okay, you know, people are having fun, people are happy. It's okay, as long as people are happy and they're not doing too much harm, it's okay for me. You know, and also, you don't need to go very far to be in the desert, for example. Yeah. For example. I was in the Sinai, I didn't like it. Ha. I didn't have the right conditions. I had to study something which I had never taught. And you know me, I said, no, I don't want to teach Dura. I don't want to teach it. I don't know it. So I took this big book with me on debate. We were in a hut in this devil's head there, whatever it's called. Everybody was having a good time. I had to study this heavy book, which, you know, and I had no light, I had no table, everything was full of sand, and there was a lot of flies. I thought, like, what on earth am I doing here? I could have stayed in Tel Aviv in a clean house with a clean room, with a table, and, you know, with a computer where I can do proper study. So there you go. It's, again, we have these ideas. This is nice and this is not nice. And the example we had in Switzerland when we were studying the Bodhicharya Tara also. And we were looking at the second chapter where Shantideva makes all these offerings of bathhouses and all this. So I said, you know, you can offer like a wellness hotel, 5-star with massage and everything. And somebody says, oh, no, I don't like this. So I said, I like mountain lakes. I say, sorry, you know, if you're cold, if you're from Tibet, you know, and you're dirty and you haven't showered for, I don't know, a month or so, I'm sure you would prefer a wellness hotel than a nice looking but freezing cold mountain lake. It's like, this is, I think this is for bathing, it's not for beauty. I don't like luxury. I said, yeah, but if you offer it to His Holiness, he might like it. I mean, we always think what I like, others should also like, and that's good. And what they like, they should, this is what, that's not good when I don't like it. So, you know, it's also karma, what we like and dislike.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What did you answer to yourself on that occasion when you were in the desert and you said, why on earth can't be, I put that in.
Why on earth I went to there?
No, I'm asking, what did you answer yourself? What does Buddhism say in these circumstances?
Well, I just waited until it was finished and I could go back to Tel Aviv to study properly. But why I went? I knew why I went because I said yes to the people who invited me. That was the reason. I didn't really have a need to go. I wanted to go to Santa Caterina because I had a different idea of what it was. I didn't know it was just a tourist place.
Because I would, if I were you, I would feel guilty that I was idiot. How did I do it to me?
No.
Buddhism doesn't.
I waited until I knew it was last 2-3 more days, and then I could go back to Tel Aviv to a clean room where I could study properly.
That was the comfort.
Well, that was a fact. I mean, what else can I do? It's like, you know. No, it's like I felt uncomfortable, and I did get grumpy. And actually, you know, I used to be an alcoholic. And people, of course, are drinking there. And I was in a bad state. I was in a bad mood. And I kept away from people not to hurt them. Because they were having fun and I was grumpy. So you know how we are. It was like a wet blanket. So I kept away from them. I said, oh, I have to study. But it was not to hurt them with my grumpy mood. And from my past alcoholic days, I know if I drink now, I feel relaxed again. But because I have a vow of not drinking, I didn't. I don't know if I would have started drinking there, maybe. Because, you know, you have the mindset is so set up, it knows. If I have a glass of wine, I will be relaxed, I can go down with them and be happy with them. I can't because I try to do something. This is also when I say, not always, you know, you meditate on love and compassion, all this, and the bad mood goes away. No, it didn't go away. I tried very hard, it didn't go away. But I didn't feel guilty or stupid. No. I should have. Should I have felt guilty and stupid? No, I knew it would finish. I knew it was, you know, 2 more nights.
That was the answer, that you know it will be finished.
Yeah, impermanence. I know it will finish, so why get upset? And I wasn't the one driving, so I had to wait until all the others. And the others had fun, so that was a bit of... When I wasn't too grumpy, I could rejoice in them having fun. But when I was grumpy, no way, I go, oh, stupid people.
But you had the awareness, the mindfulness of looking at you being grumpy.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and that makes
And I felt really bad because I was quite unpleasant with one of the people, especially the one who had invited me. And then I felt guilty and I knew I had to make up. So for many years I brought her the nicest chocolate I could find. And I was especially nice to her. Once the grumpiness was gone, you know, I was especially nice to her. I knew I had to repay something because she was trying to be nice to me, inviting me. She just, I made the mistake of saying yes to something that, in order to please somebody, maybe. And I kind of already from the beginning knew it wouldn't. I was glad that other people were with us, otherwise it would have become very intense. But we're very good friends again, and this is all finished. And nobody who is sitting here, so you don't have to think, who is it? It's a long time ago.
I remember the Dura course.
Huh?
I remember
The Dura course,
I
yeah.
remember, yeah. You didn't like it.
You know, it's like, oh. Anyway, we're not going into that. Otherwise, you never finish with Bodhichitta. It's total learning things by heart, which doesn't make sense if you don't study philosophy. I haven't studied philosophy. I mean, I studied Dura a bit. And I said, okay, it's for the people who study philosophy with Josh. And then they invited 60 people came who never heard about Buddhism, and I had to tell them the isolated thing is thing. And they go like, what? Why? I said, you just don't worry. You just have to learn it by heart so you can use it in the debate. I was like, oh. Anyway, let's go back to Bodhichitta. Is that satisfying you? Okay, then even if I develop only Bodhichitta, but I don't, the next verse, yeah, page 25. Even if I develop only Bodhichitta, but I don't practice the 3 types of morality, I will not achieve enlightenment. With my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice the Bodhisattva vows with great energy. On the last day, we'll talk, if we have time, talk about 6 perfections, what a Bodhisattva does. So that's mentioned here, yeah? And now already comes wisdom. So Bodhicitta only really, like the conventional Bodhicitta only has these 2 verses, really, in this very important prayer. Okay, so let's take that.
What does it mean about the 3 types?
So morality, we'll come to that on Saturday. It's morality is one of the 6 perfections, and it has 3 parts. And you'll get the answer. It's in the quiz, and you'll get the answers like, huh? No, nobody's speech of mind. Anyway, we'll talk about this on Saturday. Now we have to talk about what is bodhicitta. Anybody knows? What does it mean, the word bodhicitta?
The awakened heart, awakened mind.
Yeah, but literally translated, bodhicitta is made up of 2 words. What does it mean? Bodhi,
Chitta is mind.
awakening.
Chitta is mind.
Chitta is mind, exactly. And body is,
Awakened mind.
yeah, so it's the mind who seeks enlightenment. That's one part. Bodhicitta always has 2 parts. And the other part is for the sake of all sentient beings. For the sake of all sentient beings, why? First, in order definitely not to harm them. And to harm them. And not only not to harm them, but also to be of benefit to them. Now, very often, bodhicitta is kind of, they think it's just somebody who has a lot of compassion. Like they say, so somebody who has bodhicitta becomes a bodhisattva. So bodhi is the same, like awakening. Sattva is a being. So in a being's mind, who this attitude is there. Now, we have ego citta. You know, citta can also, you can say attitude or drive, which direction you go, the mind state. Yeah, it's not, I don't mean, actually bodhicitta is a main mind, but it's, at the moment we have this very natural and very good impulse of looking after ourselves. That when we are uncomfortable, we move. Like you just do, no, it's good. Yeah, you need to stretch, so then you stretch. You need to move, you move. You are hungry, you eat. You are eating, you stop. You need to go to the toilet, you go to the toilet. You're too cold, you put something on. You're too hot, you take it off again, and so on. If we wouldn't have that, we could definitely not look after other beings. Yeah. So this is a natural thing that we have. So this, don't make the mistake to think, well, you know, if I become bodhisattva, therefore I shouldn't look after myself anymore. Yeah, it's just that you're not harming for this, you're not harming others for your sake, or when you need to make a choice, then then maybe the choice is in favor of the other. But again, don't forget, do not isolate this part now. Always think about the lower steps that we have made. Yeah? We have thought about our existence is not satisfying. We have seen the causes for that. We know that we can get out of it. We know there's a cessation. We know that there is a path. And then this definite emergence or the urge to come out of it needs to be there. Yeah? To be in contact with that yearning that we have for lasting happiness. So this, you don't have to get rid of that, but you have to enlarge it, widen it. The same way as a mother widens her heart and her concern is maybe a good word, and her concern for her children, and the father also, yeah, and the grandfather, biologically also. It shows us that we are actually able to do it, yeah, by enlarging these kind of things. But of course, it is based on compassion. If you don't have, what's the definition of compassion? Not just the other, also ourselves. So an attitude wanting to liberate oneself or others from suffering, wanting and the causes of suffering. Actually, in Buddhist terms, you only call it compassion when you know that it can end. All the rest is pity. This is why, we see how people harm themselves, how there seems to be no end to it. And then it goes into a very tense, emotional compassion. So that's not what we're talking about here. It's the compassion who knows that suffering has causes, therefore it can end. It's a compassion, that the love who knows happiness has causes, therefore it can end. Okay?
So a bodhisattva is someone who has bodhicitta, yes?
If it is a bodhisattva, it's not somebody who just has compassion. It's somebody who has this, I need to attain enlightenment because I want to benefit sentient beings. So actually, there's different attitudes, So the strongest is for the benefit of all sentient beings. And this is where the steps of developing this mind are going to, is I want to help others. We have this when you are really well. You have it. When we are really, really well, and you see somebody suffering, but you don't know what to do. This is then the understanding that I don't have the capacity to help all others. So what do? I need to attain enlightenment. Not because then I can pull them out of samsara, because maybe I can inspire them, and also I have the skillful means to be able to help them. I know, for example, when to step back and let people try to figure it out themselves, and they're not going to jump off the next bridge. Here it doesn't work, eh? You don't have high bridges. No. But there are trains.
We have a shalom.
Yeah, a shalom. Yeah, you have ways of, yeah. Actually, a lot happened lately. I heard from various people that a lot of people have committed suicide. I mean, a lot. I have quite a few of them on my dedication list lately. Some because of too many debts, not being able to pay, especially.
So just a question.
Yeah.
When I say even if I develop only bodhicitta, that means that there is something else.
We come to that.
Again, we come to that. But bodhisattva has something else beyond bodhicitta?
Yeah, we come to that. There's two types of bodhicitta. This is what we will discuss, we're supposed to discuss last time in your place. These two verses. These two, last time. We were supposed to discuss this. We'll discuss it today, and we'll discuss it again on Tuesday for those who were not here. It's okay to hear it more than one time anyway. So, but the basis for it is compassion, this wish for others to be free from suffering. So it's like the ordinary compassion is we see the suffering of beings. So the person who has compassion for an object, for somebody else. Like you have the mind of compassion, but then there's an object of your compassion, isn't it? So we see that everybody wants happiness, nobody wants to suffer, yet they suffer, so we understand that this is not satisfactory. So there's a very clear division of subject, I, having compassion, for object, the one who suffers. Yeah? And we actually, this compassion that comes for us naturally, it's only when we see people having suffering of suffering. If we see suffering of change, it's already, yeah. But that would be, this would be like the next step of compassion, to be able to include like everybody, like to be able to include also rich people, people who seem to have no problems, people who seem to have everything, because we know this is impermanent. And we also know that maybe even though it looks to me that if I had everything that this person has, I would be very happy, but maybe it's not like this. So we start to include the suffering of change also. Yeah? And also we start already to see, actually, why do these people suffer? And we start to look at the causes. Not just the causes of aggression and greed, but especially the cause of no self. You know, we suffer because we think that there's a real self that we need to defend and we need to make happy. And through that we create negative actions. So that kind of compassion starts to understand, gosh, all this suffering is based on a misconception. You see, if the first kind of compassion with the suffering really still thinks that, ooh, I have to be very active and, you know, become social worker and nurse and this and that and really help them with the suffering, not understanding that even I had relieved that suffering, it won't hold. Yeah, the suffering seems to be quite real in this first type of suffering, and it is real as long as we don't see that it has causes. As long as the I is very strong, for us it's real, and for the other one is real. For a Buddha who sees our suffering, it is like seeing somebody in a nightmare. So when you see somebody tossing and turning in a nightmare, you have the wish for this person to be free from suffering. But you understand, as long as that person is caught in the dream, I can enter the dream and maybe be the nurse there, but the mind is still producing all the suffering. So what do I need to do? I need to wake up this person. So the compassion of somebody who sees the suffering and sees the suffering is real, and the compassion of somebody who sees that suffering is based on a misconception or on a dream, like a nightmare, what do you think is the difference between these two compassions? Do you think there is a difference?
Can you repeat the two types?
Can you speak really loud?
Can you say it again?
As if you would be shouting at somebody who just bumped into your car?
Okay. Can you repeat the two types of compassion?
Yeah, there's three actually, is another one. There's another one. Yeah. Yeah, here we still have like subject and object, but we start to understand that that this suffering is not necessary because the cause is a misconception. Now, even negative karma is empty. It doesn't exist from its own side. Yeah? So the first one has very clear subject-object. Me, the mind of compassion, have the mind of compassion. I see this one suffering in his hot garden. I bring him a glass of water or, you know, some cold water where he can take a shower or something like that. But look how nicely tanned he is. I mean, if he would come like this to Europe, people would be so jealous. In November, coming to Europe, tanned like him, this is the non plus ultra. They would all go like, wow. You would have to take Nurit with you, otherwise all the women would run after him. Yeah, so here is like, yeah, are you proud of you being so?
No.
No, because, you know, this is it. It comes from work. It doesn't come from holiday, because the other one either comes from the solarium, comes from the holiday. So I see Nissim kind of slaving away in his garden, and I just want to relieve his suffering, but I don't see the real cause behind it. Yeah, this is why also very, very, very often this kind of compassion becomes very emotional. Because how can I relieve him from his causes? I can't give him the money so that he can stop working. Also, somebody has to tend these gardens and all these kinds of things. But then it turns into pity. Pity kind of not understanding that we could be in the same spot. Like when you look at you can do it with your cleaning woman, Anna, with your cleaning lady. Like we can't really see ourselves in her spot.
I did. I was in her spot.
Oh, okay.
I was cleaning.
So then you should have even more compassion.
I was tired. I was not
You
very
weren't
with
good.
it.
You weren't good enough. Oh, okay. So but there we just have to wish, with that compassion, we have to wish for them to be free from suffering. Not so much kind of concentrating on the causes. That's the first type of compassion. It's very good, but it can go into quite emotional, and also it's very biased. We have compassion for somebody we like, then it comes, we suffer with them, almost, We feel pain for them and all this. We totally go over the top because we cannot help them, and therefore we think if I feel with them, then that will help them, and you're even more miserable than them because they have the suffering, they do something, you're just sitting there feeling sorry for them. So that's not what we want. Yeah, but it's good. It's still good having this. It's a natural emotion that we have. It probably has to do with neurons or what? Oh, okay. Whoa, lucky. Mirror neurons, but because we understand that being in the heat is kind of difficult, so then we feel the suffering of the other. But when we have the right distance,
Empathy.
Yeah, we can. It doesn't matter how you want to call it. We can call it empathy. Is more like you know the suffering of the other, but you're not taking it. That's empathy. Kind of knowing the suffering of the other. The science describes it like that. You know the suffering of the other. You understand it. You're able to communicate that you understand. But you also are not going into his shoes. Okay? But the heart is wide open. Yeah. So this is definitely necessary first. But as I'm saying, it goes into emotional compassion, and we can go over the top, and we feel helpless. And this is what happens very often. If you go to somebody who suffers a lot, and you can't help them. I mean, I see it with therapists, physiotherapists, these people. They're waiting for me to say, yes, it helps. But what do I do if it doesn't help, Sometimes I say, yes, it helps. I'm not saying it like this. Say, yeah, I feel better. Of course I feel different, so it could also be called better, just for them to, because they need this thing. That otherwise, and when we're not, they're physiotherapists, so I pay, so of course they have to take me again. But when it's somebody that you go and visit, like a dying person, it's very difficult to sit with them. You have to be very, very strong and not to go into that emotional compassion where you take the responsibility for having to help them. Then you're not very skillful with these people, because then you put the pressure on them, like the physiotherapist puts the pressure on me, that I have to feel better. Whomever you try to help, please tell them, if it doesn't help, look, I'm trying, if it doesn't help, it's fine, it's okay. You can say, I won't be disappointed. But we are disappointed. We have this expectation that my help should work, isn't there? The therapist, the psychotherapist, we're very happy. Aren't you very happy when somebody says, oh, wow, I feel so much better?
Yeah, but I'm not disappointed when I'm not.
Okay, good. That's good. That's a very good attitude. If it's very deep. This, sometimes I'm not sure. Okay, so that's the first time. Then the second type, you start to see the causes for the suffering, especially this misapprehension of me, I. Separate I, independent I, permanent I. Like, somebody who got hurt so many years ago and still feels the same pain, actually more pain now than then, and doesn't understand that the pain that they feel now, it doesn't come from that thing 20 years ago, it comes from the way they think now, and they grasp onto this I. So one starts to get, one has to wish to free beings from, still like, I want others to free others from their suffering. But you start to see the causes in a much lighter way, actually. More difficult to recognize, definitely. You see, somebody who sees somebody who has an arm just cut, and somebody who who understands that this person is dreaming that his arm was cut, which person you think would be more relaxed? Both want to liberate them from their suffering, but which person's mind would be more relaxed? Definitely the second one. Understanding that all they need to do is wake up. This dream exists, but it doesn't exist out there. You know, what we call our outside world is our dream. And this is so difficult to understand because we refuse to wake up on top of it because it looks totally real. I can feel it, same way I can feel pain in the dream. And this is why one takes the dream very often as an example, not to understand, oh, what does the dream mean, but to show you the power of the mind, that you can be totally caught up in the story, totally think it's real, totally emotionally go along with it, and nothing is there. How the mind can produce all this. So this is the difference between a Buddha and us. The Buddha knows that we are dreaming. We don't. So the Buddha is like the person watching that there with the nightmare. So Buddha, for example, would understand this person is in an artificial coma. So therefore, I can go like this, it doesn't help. So we just patiently wait until the medicine has worn off. We would go, wake up. We wouldn't have the skillful means like a Buddha has. Okay? But there is a third kind of compassion that the Buddhas have, which is called objectiveless. It doesn't have reference points. Objectless compassion. So there's no, they see, that's the Buddhas, they see there is also not an inherently existent self, but there's also no beings.
It's like
No real beings.
this first line of the Niktsema.
Huh? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that one. When you say the Lama Tsongkhapa's praise, when it talks about Avalokiteshvara's compassion, where it has objectless compassion, or how is it called, without reference point or without objection. That means it's this very deep understanding. Also, the beings don't exist, really. You see, a Buddha also doesn't exist, really. And that's difficult for us to understand, because we only understand existence and non-existence. Yeah. So this is where... yeah?
In the second case,
So there is not only, well, let me finish. So there is, for this one who has this compassion, there is not only a inherently existent self, but there's also a non-inherently existent mind, meaning the aggregates. So that's a very, very deep understanding. I probably better if Kelsang Wang or somebody like this explains it. Yeah? So there's, even like the aggregates, they're also just like an illusion. They're also just like a dream. Yeah. These are these two, emptiness you haven't done yet. Have you done emptiness already? No, this is next one. Okay, so you'll come to that in next one. Like the different levels of emptiness. Like the lower schools, they say there's no self. But then the higher schools also, there's no self, but there's no mind. There's also no aggregates. Because for the lower schools, there is no really inherently existent self, I, who creates these negative emotions. But there is a real mind, for example, or a real person. Yeah, but it doesn't have a separate self inside. Whereas the upper schools, the Madhyamika, there's none of this. So this is this objectless compassion, which is there all the time, which is, I think it's like it really goes together with it goes together with an understanding of emptiness. Total direct perception of emptiness. This is what the Buddhas have. So they don't have, wisdom and compassion separate. It's like totally together. Now, how that feels, I don't know. But this is how these three kinds of compassion, as you go towards Buddhahood, are developed. The first one is this emotional compassion. Me, the object, has compassion for Nissim, who is too hot in his garden. Then we start to see, well, if Nissim wouldn't have his separate self, then he wouldn't have created the negative karma to be in that heat that he doesn't like. If you would be a Swiss person, then you would enjoy it. I tell you, Swiss people pay a lot of money to go into the sun. Yeah, so again, it's totally subjective, this whole thing. And then the last one, you would see that even though there's no I, but there's also no real sentient beings. So why would the Buddha continue to work then when he understands, but all these beings, they don't exist out there from their own side? Because we don't understand it. Yeah, so this is why the Buddhas still have to come back again and again and again and again in order for us, like Lama Zopa, he's teaching so much on emptiness, and so much on this is just a dream and just illusion and this and that lately. Yeah, because we cling so much to this reality, so much. Such a strong habit, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. Okay. So the two bodhicittas. Okay, so we're clear on this, yeah? Bodhicitta is not just compassion. It's the mind who has an open heart for all sentient beings and wants to liberate them from their suffering. But with bodhicitta, you need to understand the causes of suffering. So otherwise we have this, I want to free them from suffering, so I say to Nissim, you can go home, I take your job. But then what about the other one and the other one and the other one? We get totally lost in wanting to help to relieve the suffering, but not the causes. Okay? So it's not ordinary compassion. It has this aspect of, I need to become a Buddha very quickly so I can wake them up from that nightmare of real existence that they are totally caught up in. So we need actually 4 causes in order, or 4 or 5 causes in order to be able to really develop bodhicitta. Now, you see the idea of bodhicitta, oh, it's a nice idea. The technique, how to do this, that's easy. But then to really have this mind is incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult. To be a happy bodhisattva, because you need to be happy. You can't be a martyr and, telling everybody how good you are and how you suffer and how you forgive the other one and that you actually make prayers for them, that they're going to be happy and, oh, I wish them well, blah, blah, blah. It's not like this. Yeah, you're keeping that totally secret, actually, And what you do when you do Tonglen and all this also will come Sunday. So you need to see the benefit of it, because it's difficult, because we have to give up on a lot of things. Same way as you have to see the benefit of liberation. If you don't see the benefit of peace and free from suffering, and you think it's boring, you will never go for liberation, not even for liberation. You see, we want liberation, we want to be free, we want to be kind, we want all this, but then when we have opportunities to train it, we don't. We run away. And we go back to our old habits of complaining and say, oh, yeah? This is it. If a difficult person comes, it's a perfect opportunity to train to be kind. Like a kindness that doesn't just come spontaneously because you feel like it, but a kindness who needs to be cultivated. If you don't have difficult people, how are you ever going to be able to do this? How? If everybody is kind to you, and even like with this example in the Sinai there, even they were very kind to me, I had aversion towards them. Yeah? So like this. So we need to see the benefit of it. So what would be the benefit of bodhicitta? The ones who go to the Bodhicharyavatara study group, then the first chapter is all about this.
There are so many.
Happiness, yes, but happiness is like what?
No, self-happiness and
This verse we did last time when I was there. Remember?
the analogy of what we did about the analogies, what it gives us when we...
It's like the alchemist who turns every action into happiness. Not just for you, but also for the other. Maybe not, maybe the people taking me to the Sinai didn't turn into like then happiness, but it turns into happiness now, because I was, even though I didn't like the situation, I was actually quite okay. And I'm not angry at them or anything, Now we have a very good and stable relationship, actually, because I had to work at this good relationship. So that then kind of suffering, and me feeling ashamed, it's not the right word, me feeling disturbed by my grumpiness, made me consciously develop kindness for that person. And now I can be together with her. She hasn't changed at all, but I can be together with her, absolutely no problem. For everything would get on my nerves. And it's not her. You know, I could say, well, she's a difficult person, everybody feels like that with her. It's true that everybody feels like that, but it's not her. It is my aversion towards her, and I can't change her. I have no right to change her, but I can change my attitude. But that needs effort and awareness and mindfulness and letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, and feeling that I have a depth towards her. And then I'm protected. This is how it turns every action into gold. I am protected. Nobody can make me, I'm not saying I'm like this with everybody, okay? But when I have bodhicitta, when my attitude is really I want to help them, even I'm clumsy and I don't know how, I don't create negative karma for myself. Because the motivation, which is the most important part in creating karma, is positive. You see, even a parent yells at the child, let's say, because the child is doing stupid things, whatever. The motivation behind it is actually positive. So the negative karma that comes from that is not so heavy. Yeah? Still not good if you can explain the child without yelling. That is better. But the motivation behind it is not to harm the child. It's to prevent the child from being harmed in the long run. So don't think compassion is something you let everybody do what they want you to do. Yeah. So even our ordinary, you know, there's all these things that Lama Zopa says how you can think. I have it somewhere. Maybe I can bring it along or can send it to you. That, you know, making kaka, you think like, may all beings be liberated from their suffering, seeing a beautiful view. May everybody see the beautiful view of emptiness. When you chop your vegetables, you think, may everybody chop their ego. When you turn on the light, you think like, may I turn on the light for everybody. You know, the light of wisdom and compassion. And when you turn it off, may I liberate everybody from the darkness of ignorance. When you close the door, may I close the door to the lower states for all beings. When you open the door, may I open the door to nirvana for all beings, like that. Yeah.
Who said it? I want to read.
Huh?
I've never come across it.
No? Yeah. So this is attitude. It's, you know, if you never heard this, you never thought about bodhicitta, it seems total fantasy. But it really changes your mind.
That's what you say to yourself when you turn on the light.
I wish I would. Unfortunately, I only say it when I say to other people what they should do. So that's how far I am. But I could. Yeah, this is, now I've said it again. Maybe I'll do it tonight when I turn off the light. Instead of turning off the light, you know, I want to sleep, I'm tired. Or going to sleep with an attitude of thinking, I'm going to sleep, so tomorrow I'm more rested, then I have less chance to upset somebody because I have more space in the mind, something like that. I'm eating, this I do. I want to have a healthy body, but I forget. You know, this is the problem. These words sometimes then all of a sudden they turn into words. And then you say it, but here is like, it's chips, pizza, blah, 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 all these things. Sarah's pizza is healthy, I trust, but they gave me a piece of pizza for tonight. So it's like, I forget, this is, because the other part, totally mindless doing things, is like, it's so strong. Yeah, but I wish I would be able to do that. I'm sure Lama Zopa Rinpoche does.
You think Lama Zopa will say that?
Yeah, not say. He doesn't need to. He lives by it. It's, this attitude is, you know, the same way as I don't have to think, which food do I like? You know, I made a choice here. I made a choice between this and this and this and this. Why? Not because I was thinking. I only looked. It was enough for me to look, and then the inside pilot goes, da 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 da, that one. Okay? Without needing this box here. Just the impulse. So this is what Lama Zopa Rinpoche, I'm sure this is what he does. And not just Lama Zopa Rinpoche.
What does he do when he turns off the light?
That he thinks, may I be able to turn on the light of wisdom in the minds of all sentient beings.
He never turns off the light because he hardly ever sleeps.
Yeah. Okay, so you need to see the benefit of it. All your actions turn into, like the alchemist turns like something, earth or stone into gold. it turns into happiness for you and all sentient beings, for example. Yeah. You can go to sleep with a happy mind by thinking, wow, this day was really meaningful. I didn't harm anybody. And if you were able to help somebody, wow, fantastic. I think I need to make a break. But I just finished with these 4 things. Okay, devotion to the Buddha. That's the second one. The second cause to develop bodhicitta. You need to see the suffering of sentient beings. That's another cause. You need to be moved by it. You need to have an open heart. Not just my suffering and my family, but all sentient beings. You need to be able to include them. Not maybe at the beginning running out, but really having the thought, wouldn't it be wonderful? You need to be able, without any doubt and without any aversion, be able to say, wouldn't it be wonderful if all sentient beings were free from suffering and the causes of suffering? Without any kind of, not this one. Yeah? This is something that we need to cultivate also. Because this, you think maybe you are a majority here. I'm sure that all of you can do that. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. But the majority would think, like, why would I want a Nazi to be happy?
Talking about passive wishing or being ready to do something.
No, we're passive still. We're still passive, yeah. You see, the thing is, if we don't generate this mind and we go out to help, then we go out to help still with the expectations that we can help and they will say thank you, we get terribly disappointed. Whereas if we have the attitude, no matter what, I just want to help, but that needs to be cultivated, needs to be developed. It's actually not the right word. We have it, but it's covered. It's this attitude is our nature. But it's covered, so we don't really need to cultivate it. We don't need to download it from somewhere. It's already there, but it is covered. And this is what we need to trust, that we can never, ever lose it, and nobody can take it away from us, not even death. That nature, Buddha nature. And this is what we lack in the West. Naturally born Buddhists, they grow up with this. From the base, you're good. At the base, we all have basic goodness, basic wisdom, and basic space. We all have it, but we're not able to live it because why? Because all the other stuff is piled on top of it. Then what you also need, and this is why we talked about Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you need the inspiration of a spiritual master. Because if you just have it from books, you say, this is not possible. You need people like the Dalai Lama who really live it. Yeah. Also Desmond Tutu, by the way. I'm not saying he's a bodhisattva, but he has this way of being able to forgive. He has this way of knowing that the aggressors need to be happy. I need to make them happy. Otherwise, they cannot stop. Desmond Tutu, the bishop, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Other beings, I'm sure, as well, who are maybe not even known, because it is our nature. These people, they have access to this wisdom, knowing if I'm just putting them into prison, just making them even unhappier, this is not going to change their attitude. Therefore, I have to make them happy. This is my duty, yeah? And you need to have the fearlessness to bear the hardships of the path. The fearlessness to bear the hardships of the path. You need to know this is going to be difficult. This you need to know. This is what I'm saying. Intellectually, very lofty ideas, very nice, very beautiful. Very quickly, you feel very good about yourself. When I heard about bodhicitta, I thought, you see, I always saw myself as totally insignificant. I finished school when I was 15. I was lazy. I didn't want to study. I would have had the capacity, I think. I was in a very good school. I could have continued. But no, I chose to be free and go to work and go skiing. And whatever money I earned was good enough. I wanted pleasure. And I was never very attractive, and I never did put a lot of effort into being attractive, and it was okay for people not to notice me and all that. But I felt also I was insignificant and no good for anything and like this. When I heard about bodhicitta, I thought, like, wow, this is great. You don't need to be beautiful. You don't need to be young. You don't need to have diplomas. You don't need to be thin, fat, big, tall, whatever. You don't need to man or woman. Everybody can develop that. I was so inspired. I was so inspired by this. But yeah, it's difficult, okay? If you don't believe me, you'll start and then you'll see. Okay, so now we make a break.